All right, there's a lot of talk about the interest rates coming down in September. Here to tell us more about that is Jim Bottrell with Jim Bottrell Real Estate Group. Jim, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so a lot of talk about the Fed dropping interest rates. When do you think it's going to happen, if it happens, and how do you expect it to affect the real estate
We are
market?
going to see them dropping interest rates. We already have seen mortgage interest rates come down a little bit, and because the markets will always move in anticipation of what they think. But the thing is so far, we've only seen interest rates come from maybe 7 to 6.5, maybe a little bit less. So there really hasn't been enough to actually make a difference yet.
Okay, so when? I mean, and what is that? Is that going to help the buyers, the sellers?
Well, it's going to help everybody. What's interesting is just the talk over the last 3 weeks that we've had about interest rates coming down is we've already seen a lot of enthusiasm already pop up. And over that, we don't know if it's the, that's the problem. This enthusiasm that's popped up, we don't know if it's because people are anticipating interest rates coming down or not, or was it the summer movers that didn't show up during the summer? So where we think is going to be a significant impact to real estate is when the interest rates get to the very low 5s, maybe the high 4s, which I do think we're going to get to, but I don't think we're going to see that until next year when Powell terms out. He's going to be done in May. We know Trump's going to appoint a loyalist. And then once we see those interest rates at 5 or maybe even the high 4s, that's when we're going to see the real estate market actually explode.
When you say explode, what do you mean?
Well, there's two parts to it. One is the people who already own homes. You know, they already have a 2.5% interest rate. They've been living in their home for a while. We're going to see them start to move up or move down. They haven't been doing it, but by next summer, that'll be 4 years. That entire segment of the market hasn't moved because they're not going to give up their 2.5% interest rate to get a house that better fits their needs to get a 7% interest rate. And then you have all the buyers. And every day we run into buyers that are saying, I'm not going to buy until I can get an interest rate that starts with, you know, a 4 or something like that. When we see that, we will see them flood the market, and that's when it's going to get very exciting. When the buyer's market will be done, we'll be seeing the bidding wars, we'll be seeing all of that happen again.
So you're not seeing bidding wars right now?
No, not yet.
Not yet? Okay, does the market right now favor buyers or sellers?
Definitely a buyer's market right now. Right now, a buyer can go choose the house they want. We're in a market correction, so prices are down. So they can choose the house they want, they can negotiate their terms, they can negotiate a lot of things. And so my advice to them is that buyers should be buying right now. Yes, interest rates are higher, but the prices are lower. If you want to wait until next summer when the prices come down, you're going to be competing against all those other buyers that just showed up, and you're going to end up paying more for that house next summer. So the play is buy the house today at today's higher interest rates. When the bidding wars happen, which will happen next summer, you're not going to pay more for that house. Instead, you're gaining equity, and then you can just refi into a lower rate.
Yeah, because refi is the whole trick to get down to that lower rate. Just because you're in a higher rate now doesn't mean you won't be in a year.
Right.
Okay. Good. Looking at your correspondence here, President Trump potentially eliminating the $500,000 cap on the exclusion for capital gains taxes on the sale of a primary residence. What is your take on that?
I sure hope he does it. So let me explain what that is. In a primary residence, meaning something you've lived in for the last 2 of the last 5 years, the way the tax law is written is if you're single, the first $250,000 of profit that you make is tax-free. If you're married, it's $500,000, but it's limited. Now, $500,000 in most of America is an enormous amount of money. But if you live here in San Diego, it's really not. In fact, if you've owned a home for 7 or 8 years, you probably already have that $500,000. Now, in a normal course of somebody's life, they buy their first house, then they have kids, they buy a little bit bigger house, and they have more kids, and they buy that third house, and that's got a bunch of bedrooms. And that's the one that people tend to stay in 10 or 20 years, right? They have probably $1 million of equity in that house, but they haven't been giving that house up because even though that house doesn't fit their needs and the kids have moved out and you've got all these empty bedrooms and there's stairs they can't go up and down, they're not getting rid of that house because they would have to pay an enormous amount of money in taxes to give that up to buy a house that would better fit their needs. If Trump eliminates those caps, which I hope he does, imagine the inventory. All these people need, you know, their families have gotten bigger. They need those bedrooms. But those people that are living in those houses right now that don't use those bedrooms won't give that house up because they would have to write, you know, a couple $100,000 check to the IRS. And no matter what the crazy people out there say, the government is not a better steward of your money than you are. All right, so that's why they're sitting in those houses. If he makes that cap go away, we will see inventory open up and we will see people living in houses that better fit their needs.
All right, we'll keep an eye on it. Jim Bottrell.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Jim.